Polynomial inequalities. Solve graphically as well as algebraically 2x to the power of 4 plus x cubed minus 26x squared minus 37x greater than 12. While this question is very important, I've seen it in test paper also, and it's a good question to take it here in the video, since I get a chance to explain you how to solve inequalities, both methods, graphical and algebraic. So let's go through this. In general, you are lucky if you get factored form of polynomials. If not, you need to factor them. That is the first step. And before factoring, what you need to do is bring all the terms to one side of inequality. Now, so let's bring it to one side and then start our work. So the first step here is bring the terms to one side so that you are checking only with respect to 0. That makes things very simple. It is 2 to the power of x, 2 times x to the power of 4 plus x cubed minus 26x squared minus 37x, and we'll bring 12 on the other side. That is, we are doing minus 12 on both sides. When you do minus 12 on both sides, you get minus 12 on left side and 0 on the right. So first step is bring all terms to one side so that your inequality is with respect to 0. Now next step is you have to factor this. Now to factor, what should you do? We can use remainder theorem or factor theorem, whatever you may say. So possible factors are factors of 12 and factors of 12 divided by 2. So which gives us combinations of plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, plus minus 4, plus minus 6, plus minus 12, and all these numbers divided by 2 also. So there are huge possibilities. Let's start one by one. So what we will do is, now we know which factors to try. So let's start with minus 1. So what is f of minus 1? F of minus 1 will be, just plug in minus 1 here for x and check the value. So if you plug in minus 1, you get 2. And minus 1 cube will be negative. So negative 1. Minus 1 will be positive. You get negative 26. Here this will be plus 37. And this is minus 12. And minus, so just add the positive terms first. You get 2 plus 37, which is 39. And negative terms, 12 plus 26 gives us 38. And then 39. So plus 39 minus 39 gives us 0. So we get the first 0. Now once you get the 0, you can divide. So I'm using synthetic division here and then get the answer. Rather, the next factor, right? So let's do that. So let's divide this and try to get factors from here. It's kind of a lengthy question. You will have to bear with me for quite some time since it's a degree 4, so we'll have to factorize a couple of times. So we know minus 1 is the magic number, right? And what we have here is, let me just copy these numbers so that we can solve for them, right? So these numbers for us are coefficients, which are 2 plus 1. So I'll write these coefficients here. So we have 2, then we have plus 1, minus 26, minus 37, minus 12, right? And we need to divide by minus 1 since that gives us 0, right? So that is what we're trying to do now. So to divide, what do? We're bringing 2 down, right? So bring in 2 down. Multiply by this and right here. So multiply by this right here, you get minus 2. Now you add them up. So when you add them up, you get minus 1. Now multiply again, so you get plus 1 here, right? Add them up, minus 25. Multiply, you get plus 25 here. Add them up, so you get minus 12. Multiply by minus 1, you get 12 here. And as expected, you get 0. That means that is a factor, correct? So you get your next equation. And the next equation for us is, so we get one factor. And the factor here is, for us, x plus 1, right? So this is the first factor. Now this is the reduced form, so we can write our function now. Let's say f of x, let me write f of x first here. So we say now f of x is really equal to x plus 1 times this function, right, which is 2x cubed minus x squared minus 25x minus 12. That is the function. Now again we'll have to try and see what can make this 0, right? So let's try it again. So in this particular case we'll try with those factors and we can plug in some values and check. So let's check some values, and I'm just picking up the value which gives me 0. So which is minus 3 for me, right? So you have to try minus 2, minus 3, since I don't want to run into time. So minus 3. So we'll try for minus 3 here, and if you do that, you plug in minus 3 here, which is 2 times. So no need to do this, right? Just work with the cubic equation which you have now, correct? So here, if you put minus 3, you get 2 times minus 3 cubed is minus 27, and minus 9. Here, minus 3 will make it positive 75, and minus 12. Now, if you add this up, you get a 0. So, minus 3 is also a factor. Now, again, do the step of synthetic division. It is better to do synthetic division, and those of you who are not conversant with synthetic division, I recommend them to do long division, as they don't have much option, right? So we'll put these numbers here, which is 2 minus 1. So 2 minus 1 minus 25 and minus 12. And we need to divide this by minus 3. Minus 3, okay? So let's start with it, the same process. So we'll bring down 2, multiply by minus 3, so get minus 6. Add them up, minus 7. Multiply, you get plus 21. Add them up, you get 4, which is minus. And minus 4 and plus 3, when you multiply minus 3, you get plus 12. So you get 0 here, right? So that is a factor, of course. So now we get our function f of x, and our function f of x is previous factor x plus 1. You don't really have to write it all the time, but I'm doing it since sometimes I forget. That is the difficulty. And this gives me a quadratic equation, which is x 2 times x squared minus 7x minus 4, right? Now we have to equate. So this is our next function, and we are trying to factorize, and that's why we are doing all this. So all this process which we are doing here is to factorize the given polynomial. Do you understand that? Okay. Once we factorize, then we solve the inequality, right? Now this is a quadratic equation which you can factor and then write down in the factored form, right? So this you could do, right? So now what we will do is that let's try to see how to factorize this. So you know, sum and product should be minus 8. So here product is minus 8. You just multiply, and we are using sum and product. So p and q, when you multiply, you're expecting minus 8. And when you add them up, p plus q, you want to have minus 7. So the two magical numbers which you get here are, bigger number should be negative, so 8 and minus 1, right? So if you use 8 and minus 1, you can factor this. So let me show you how to factor 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. So let me show you that first here. 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. So basically I'm splitting minus 7 as 2x squared minus 8x plus x, right? So that is minus 7x minus 4. And then we'll take these two and these two common. So it's just reminding you of the previous skills which you've learned, which is 2x times x minus 4. And we have x minus 4 here, right? So we can take x minus 4 common. Do you see that? So I can write this as factored form. We'll take x minus 4 common, x minus 4 and 2x plus 1. 2x plus 1, correct? So that becomes this particular factor, correct? So after doing all this, we get our function. And let me write down our function clearly now, this time in a different ink, so that things don't really get. So I'm now going from, so this is the equation where we left, right? Equation 1. Now this equation 1, we are putting all the factors which we have got. So these are the factors which you multiply to get that equation, correct? So I'm using all these factors here and writing down the equation given to us. So the equation is uh, x plus 1, x plus 3 times x minus 4 times 2x plus 1. This is all this f of x, right? Is greater than 12, is greater than 0, right? So this is, I should have written f of x here. So this is my function f of x, right? So that is the function. We brought 12 to this side and then started doing all this. So that is my function f of x, right? So all this I'm saying is f of x greater than 0. So that is the inequality which we need to solve, correct? Now let's see the process of solving. So algebraic process is kind of taking table of values. So let me just show you a shortcut method. We do have a video where we start solving polynomial inequalities from this stage, factored form. I'd like you to see that video also so that you understand details which I'm going to explain you now. Okay, so the steps are, from here figure out what are the zeros. Now for us, zeros are at which point? Any of these factors could be 0 leading to give us 0, right? So we get zeros. For the first factor, 0 will be at minus 1. This factor, 0 is at minus 3. These are real zeros, right? 4. And this one is at minus half, right? So these are the zeros. On a number line, I can write down all these zeros. So let's say, so I'm making whole for a 0 since the inequality is greater than 0. So this one is at minus 3. So let me write minus 3 here. The other one, next comes minus 1. So let's write minus 1 here, half here, minus half, and then we have 4. So these are the zeros for us. As you can see, the equation is a polynomial, all are linear zeros. So you know fairly well that the function will be positive on one side and negative on the other side of the 0, right? So we don't know which one is positive, which one is negative. So what we do is these zeros basically divide into intervals. So the intervals for us are minus infinity to minus 3. And this interval is from minus 3 to minus 1. And then we have interval minus 1 to minus half. And then from minus half to 4. And then from 4 to infinity. So 4 zeros give us 5 intervals. Important thing to note. It is a part of communication question sometimes. Now these intervals, we need to test here, when is our function positive? If the function is positive, then it is greater than 0. And then it's a solution, correct? So what we do here at this stage is check the value of function, whether it is positive or negative. So we just check f of x for these values. So what we do is we just plug in test point. So let me write down a test point now so that we can know what to test for or where to test. So with an interval of minus infinity to minus 3, we can take a number which is, let us say, minus 4. In this interval, minus 2 is a good number, and here minus 1 and minus 0.5, that means minus 0.75, okay? And between minus and plus, 0 is a good number, and let's take 5 here between 4 and infinity. Now, what you have to do is, you have to plug in minus 4 here. So when you plug in minus 4, so in that case, what happens to the function? If you plug in minus 4, you get the first term, so I'll just plug it in and write the signs here. So minus 4, if you plug it in here, you get negative, right? So that is my first term. If I put minus 4 here, I again get negative, right? If I put minus 4 here, I again get negative. Minus 4, minus 8, right? Minus 4 here, twice minus 4 is much bigger than 1. So this is also negative, right? So for minus 4, the function is with so many negatives. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. So when you multiply 4 negatives, then what do you get? When you multiply 4 negatives, you get a positive, right? So you get positive here. Do you see that? So that is how you can check your value in a straight line. So let us push it a bit here so that things are clear to you. Now let's test for minus 2. If I plug in minus 2 here, I get a negative, right? If I plug in minus 2 in this, then I get positive sign. Do you see that? If I plug in minus 2 in the third factor, minus 2 minus 4 is negative, correct? And minus 2 in the last factor will give me minus 4 and this as minus. So it is again negative, correct? So we have 3 negatives and 1 positive. That will result in negative when you multiply all of them. Do you see that? You can use a calculator to do this calculation also. Now the last one, this one is minus 0.5. It's a small minus number lesser than 1. So in the first case, it will be positive, correct? In the second case, it will again be positive. Now this number negative, this is already negative, it has to be negative, correct? Now if I put it in here, negative 0.5, which is less than 1, right? 0.5, but it is, so if you do this, this is also negative, right? So you get negative here. When you multiply 2 negatives and 2 positives, you do get a positive result. So you get positive, correct? Right. If you plug 0, this is positive, so we get 2 positives, the first 2 positives. Here minus 4, minus, and here positive, correct? So you land up with a negative answer, which is negative. If I plug in 5, 5 plus will give us positive. Here it will give us positive. Here positive. And here also positive, right? So all positives will give me positive. Now we are looking for inequality where this is greater than 0. So as you can see, we got 2 answers. The one is, so rather 3 answers in this case, this, and this. So during these intervals, our function is positive. So these are the intervals where this inequality will be positive, and that is part of a solution. This is one way of doing it, and this is kind of algebraic way. It takes a lot of effort and time. Now let's do graphical method also. Now the graphical method is kind of neat. First process is the same, finding zeros. So once you get this equation factored form, then see what happens. Now you see degree is 4, leading coefficient is positive. So you know the end behavior, that your parabola is facing up, right? Both sides up. All the zeros are linear in nature, therefore the parabola will cross them. So we have to cross it. So our parabola will look like this. So you can start from here, go up, and then this, and this, right? So that is our parabola. That's the graph for this particular function. And as you can see, where is it positive? It is positive in this interval, it's positive in this interval, and positive in this interval. So these 3 intervals are part of our solution. Do you see that? So that is how graphically we get the answer. Is it okay? So I'll write down part of answer right here. So our answer is, since we have messed it up here, minus infinity to minus 3. So we have minus infinity to minus 3. That is the first section. And then the interval minus 1 to minus half, minus 1 to minus half, and then beyond 4. So 4 to infinity. So these are the intervals where this polynomial is going to be satisfied. That is 2x to the power of 4 plus x cubed minus 26x squared minus 37x greater than 12 is true in these 3 intervals. So that is our answer. I hope you understand and appreciate the process. The idea here is, first step, bring all the terms to left so that the inequality is with 0. Second step, factor. So we took a lot of time to factor, but that is the part of solution. Once you factor, you get the equation in factored form, right? I'm writing that equation is f of x. Now, find the zeros, the real zeros. Once you have real zeros, these real zeros, which are 4 of them here, divide number line into 5 intervals. So in 5 intervals, pick up test points and test your function whether it is greater than 0 or not. You are interested in sign, not value. So if you figure out it is positive, that means your function is greater than 0, and that's a part of solution. right? If you think it is negative, or if you calculate it to be negative, that is not the right solution. So all the positive intervals give you solution, combine them with or statement. So it is this or this or this. You could also write union in between, right? Union or, both are correct, right? So that is how you solve inequalities. I hope that's absolutely clear and very helpful to you. Now take this as a base. So the previous question where I give you polynomial in factored form, and this one where you need to factor and then move ahead, go in hand. So go through them and understand, and then look into the other videos. Thank you and all the best.